Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Chronic Illness and Mental Health series with Tasha today.
Hi guys.
Hey. So quickly, if you want to give like a quick little background of what you have going on physically.
Okay, so I'm Tasha. I'm 30, and I have Lyme disease, chronic Lyme disease, and co-infections. And I've had that for my symptoms got really bad about 8 years ago after I had my second baby. I have 4 kids. But once I found out like about the Lyme disease and the symptoms and all the things, looking back into like even my childhood, I realized that I also had symptoms then, but I didn't know it. So I've been sick for like 20 years. I've had Lyme symptoms.
Wow. That's a long time. I know a lot of people have dealt with it for a long time too.
Yeah.
So you had said before we come on is that you have some mental health from before getting sick or before realizing, and then it kind of progressed with it as you got sicker. So I guess I want to start with, what was it kind of like before, like you realized you had these symptoms and before you got really, really sick? It's just kind of what your mental health was like then.
So as a kid, my mom had 5 girls and she raised us all by herself. So for me, that was kind of like, it caused me like, mental health issues. Like I had to watch my mom struggle and to fight to raise us by herself. And it mentally, like I questioned so many things about like myself and why my dad would just like leave us and, all of those little things that like little kids shouldn't have to go through, but I still questioned so many of them alone. And I didn't ever want to like bring them up to my mom because she was already under so much, stress and the pressure of just raising kids by herself. So I feel like that caused me like a lot of anxiety. Like I had anxiety when I was younger about like getting lost. Like if we would get lost driving around, I would be like freaking out, scared. And I don't really know how that resonates like with like the childhood stuff, but I definitely had some weird anxiety symptoms as a child that I didn't know how to deal with. I didn't, understand what it was or how to deal with it. But then as I got older and I kind of like started to understand about like, my mom raising us on her own and all of those things a little bit more, I was a little better in that area. And then, and I could talk to her as, I got older. So I was more comfortable bringing things up. But also I was a teen mom. Like I got pregnant when I was 18. I graduated high school 5 months pregnant. I don't recommend it, but I'm not ashamed of it either. Like it was a huge blessing in my life. But I had him, and then 17 months later, his dad passed away unexpectedly. So that was like a really, really dark like phase of my life. And there was like no information on like why, even like with autopsies and stuff like that, like there was like no reason. It was like an undetermined death. So it made it even harder because you have like all these questions, and my son will be older one day and he's gonna have questions, and I have like no answers to give him. And it was just a dark place, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. This is scary. I don't like it. So I'm just gonna put it away. I don't want to deal with this. And that's kind of it put me in like a bad place, because even though like I told myself I'm not gonna deal with it, stuff would still come up, like, and I just pushed it under the rug. I didn't want to deal with that. And I never did until recently. Like I started doing like energy healing work and stuff like that. But that's kind of like where it was before I got sick. That's what I had to deal with before.
I'm really sorry for what happened. So I guess kind of before we move on to being sick with the mental illness, how were you, if you're okay with talking about it, like how were you kind of feeling? What was it kind of like being in the dark places and anything like that?
I felt like it was scary. Like it was a fear that I didn't want anybody to see. I didn't want anybody to know like it bothered me, that it hurt me. So I was really alone, and I I didn't really talk about it. Like I was in a place where I didn't want to talk about it.
Mm.
So it put me in like the dark because when everybody, you know, especially at nighttime, like I really struggled at nighttime when it's like quiet. You know, my son's asleep and it's just me, and it's like my light would turn on at nighttime, like, and all the questions and all the things that I would like shove under the rug and I didn't want to deal with always came out, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. So um I was, I would say secretly like depressed, but I wouldn't let
Yeah.
anybody, you know, I didn't want people to think like she's depressed and is something wrong with her. But so yeah, it was just a dark, I don't know, like a dark hiding place, I guess you could say. Like I just wanted everybody to think that, I mean, I was okay. Like, you know, I still took care of my son and did everything I had to do, but like mentally, it was just, it was awful. It was sad.
Yeah. Do you feel like having your son kind of helped you with it, keep you distracted, like keep you going?
Mhm.
Like, do you feel like without him, it would have been like a lot worse?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's even with my kids now. Like if I didn't have them, I don't know if I would be able to fight this fight every day that I do, because it's like they're my motivation. Every morning that I get up, even when I don't feel like getting up and I want to stay in bed because I don't feel good, I get up every day and do it anyways. So if I didn't
Yeah.
have him times, I definitely would have been in a much different place.
Yeah. And I've heard that a lot. So I definitely have talked to a lot of moms, and it's like, it seems like the kids are just these huge motivators because you don't have a choice. Like, you have to
Yeah.
take care of them. And it's kind of like, you don't even want to take care of yourself, but you have to take care of your kids. And
Yeah.
it's just,
It's a
it seems
lot.
like, yeah.
Times that, like, I feel like with Lyme disease and, you know, what it does to us mentally and physically, and all the moms out there, it's just, it's a lot to take on. And that puts you in like a mental place too, where it's like, sometimes there's just days where you're like, oh my gosh, like this is so much to take on
Yeah.
and to deal with. And, but you just do it.
Yeah. No, you guys, like all the Lyme moms, literally, I'm in awe of, because I'm like, I babysit and I
Yeah.
struggle just babysitting, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine taking care of other lives all the time. So I
Yeah.
applaud you guys a ton.
Thank you.
But from your switch when you got sick, so
Mm-hmm.
what was kind of the difference with your mental health from what it was already with getting sick? Was there like a switch? Did some feelings change? Like, how is it affected?
Yes, because I went through, like I said, like when I was younger, I had symptoms like I got like chronic strep throat all the time. And then I got like 105 fever and I had a rash from like my head to my toes.
Wow.
And I was really sick. And they told my mom I had scarlet fever, which is kind of like the strep throat family or something. And I eventually like got better. And then my sophomore year, I got just out of the blue, I woke up with Bell's palsy. Just Bell's palsy, the doctor said. Like it was just a standalone thing, nothing caused it. But then after I would have like my kids, my second daughter, it was like crazy. After 8 weeks after I had her, that's when like symptoms were really heavy. And I didn't know what was happening because even with my first child, I had like some anxiety stuff come up, but it kind of just passed. But with her, it was so bad. Like I literally thought I was crazy. And it was just out of the blue. I woke up with like blurry vision. My heart would be like racing so fast. I would be like sweating, even when I was just like sitting and nursing her doing, you know, nothing.
Yeah.
I would get dizzy, like all these, you know, classic Lyme symptoms that we all have. And I would like go to doctor after doctor, to the ER, to all these places. And everybody's like, you just had a baby. You're fine. Like your body is working really hard just to get back to normal. And I'm like, I had a baby before. This is not what happened.
Yeah.
So eventually a doctor told me that I had like severe hyperthyroidism, and it was really bad. Like I was losing like almost 4 pounds a week.
Wow.
But I feel like the switch with that, and I still didn't know what happened. Like I just got a diagnosis 2 years ago.
Mm.
But I feel like the medical field really took a toll on me, telling me that I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfectly healthy. You are normal. You have like anxiety and some depression. And then eventually it started turning into like, you're good. Like you're a hypochondriac. There's nothing wrong with you. And like, I fell into a period of like, I took the antidepressants for like a month and I started to believe them. Like, maybe I am crazy. They say like they've done test after test and they can't find anything wrong with me. Maybe it is just me. So I was hard on myself thinking it's me. Like, it's me. It's nothing else. Like there's something wrong with me mentally. Like I'm not all there or whatever, like, the things that I would say to myself and all of that during those times. And that took a hit. Like, and, finally getting my diagnosis 2 years ago, the doctor that I was seeing at the time, he says, I went to him because I did all this research during my nights of I cannot sleep.
Yeah.
And when I came across chronic Lyme disease, I was like, this is it. This is what I have. I know it. Yeah. And when I went to him, he's like, you don't have Lyme disease. And I was like, well, how do you know? And he said, we're in Ohio. There's not Lyme here. And I was like, well, I want you to do the test anyways. And I know a lot of people, they don't get those positive results all the time. And I wasn't aware of that at the time. But thankfully, I did get a positive Western blot. And when I went back to him to talk about the results, what do we do? What do we do next? Excuse me. And he's like, are you sure you haven't left Ohio? And I'm like, no. And he like, you haven't been recently bit by anything? And I told him, no, this is not new. This is not new. And he didn't know what to do with me. He's like, we'll have to look into, infectious disease or something like that. And but even just getting the diagnosis, I thought was, initially like the easy part. This is it. I know what's wrong with me. Now we just have to fix it. And gosh, it's not easy at all. And, going through treatment has been really hard. I've tried a couple of different things, but like it's brought out a lot of different things for me. Like Lyme rage is a real thing. And it is.
Oh my God, that topic gets me going. I'm like, whew. Lyme rage is crazy.
You open your mouth and these things come out and then you have to like calm yourself down. Like, what was that? That's like nothing you typically say or do, or like how I would react. And I'm like, wow, it's a real like symptom. And sometimes my husband's like,
I feel like the anger that just comes from Lyme and like even any illness, just anger from being dismissed and doctors in pain and just it just explodes. And like a little thing, and you can't control it. It's like maybe a little thing will set you off and all of a sudden you're just like raging, like whatever. I feel like anger is such a brushed over mental topic too. But it's such a common, like huge thing. Yeah,
it is. And the emotional stuff is real and it's hard. And, like going through treatment and like the Herx reaction, like I have a lot of emotional Herx reactions. Like I'll literally a few weeks ago, I spent the whole day just crying. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on, but I'm just crying and I don't even know why. All day, literally all day. And I just couldn't get a hold of it at all. And I think just after so many years of us being told like there's nothing wrong with us, we're fine, we're depressed, we have anxiety, it just takes a toll. It really just takes a toll on you. And especially when you start to, give into that and believe that and you start to question who you are. And like Lyme takes away so much of you. And it like changes who you are. But it's like the medical field and like other people who aren't educated about it, it starts to just take like that huge toll on you where you're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know what it feels like to be my normal self. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard thing to deal with. And I guess for you, like, how was that how has that like affected you kind of specifically? Especially with having kids and then having a husband, like how has that affected your family life at all in any way? Or
Um, I've had to learn to say things like, I'm literally not going to be able to talk right now.
mm-hmm.
Um, or I have to, my husband goes to work and I stay home with our kids. So like I told you before, it's like when I wake up in the morning and I can tell like I'm in a bad mood for whatever the reason is, I kind of just have to, sometimes I'll just be quiet. And, you know, my kids will ask questions like, what's wrong with you? Why are you sad? Or why are you quiet? They know, like they see it. They see that I don't feel well. They don't understand, but they see it. And, you know, I'm really open and honest with my kids. And I'll tell them it's, you know, I'm just not feeling well today. And, you know, this is why, but it sucks that they have to see me in so many phases or emotions or whatever. But recently our family has, well, me and the kids, my oldest son is 11 now and he's like about it, but we've been trying to do, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, EFT tapping, like it's a meditation.
No.
And just working on being calm. And that's been a really cool thing for us to do together and to explore together, because it is crazy. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be like, oh, I'm this perfect parent with this disease. I'm not. Like, I go through it. We all go through it. And some days are freaking hard. But we're a family. So we get through it together and we just do the best that we can. And even like my husband, you know, he is a grown man and we've been together for 10 years. And sometimes I feel like even he doesn't understand fully. And I guess people, even the ones who are closest to us, just don't fully understand what we go through. And I've heard so many people say, like, you don't understand, you don't get it until you get it, kind of thing. And I feel like that is so true, because I see that in my relationship with my husband, with my other family members, friends. Like, they have no idea what we really go through and how hard we are on ourselves. And it's wild.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they can't at all. I've had same issues with family members or anything where it's like, especially with mood swings, they just can't understand why. Because I'll be so angry and then I'll be, oh, I'm fine 10 minutes later. And they get mad, or they're like, what is wrong with you? Like, they can't understand that I don't even know why I'm having this mood swing.
Yeah, and it's really difficult. And like, you don't want to go through life with people like walking on eggshells around you, or I don't want to make her mad, or, you know, but we just have to give ourselves some grace at the end of the day, because we really do go through so much.
Yeah. And it takes a huge mental toll, I feel like. I mean, I've seen from other people, even from myself, from anyone I've talked to, I feel like it just takes this huge emotional, mental toll that you're not ready for, almost, or it doesn't seem like you're ready for at all.
No.
At all. So have you had any like what do your super low days kind of feel like for you, or kind of look like, if you're like, I don't know if depression has affected you super badly with it or anything like that. So what does that kind of?
My really low days, I just feel like they're the longest days ever. You know, the kids and everything, because I can't really focus on how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. What do I need to give myself right now? But they're long, and I'm doing homeschooling too. So I don't know. It's just long, quiet days where I feel like I'm almost in survival mode. Like, I'm just waiting to go to bed. So that I can just not be in my own head all day long. Or I don't know. I feel unmotivated. Like, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to do school with the kids today. I don't want to go on a bike ride. I don't, you know, just And then you blame yourself, like, why can't you do
Yeah.
these things? Just do it. But it's a head game, and we play it every day. So
Yeah.
depression for me hasn't been, I mean, I've gone through like ups and downs with depression. Mostly like when I couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and so many people were telling me that I was okay. Or just being hard on myself. Like, I know the mom that I want to be, or the wife that I want to be, or the things that I want to do, or the dreams that I have.
Yeah.
And it makes me depressed. Like, I want to be all of those things. I know me without Lyme disease and all the other things, I can be that. And and sometimes I'm like, I'm 30, like, this is a milestone, and there's
Yeah.
so much that I missed out on, and so much that I still want to do. So I'm like waiting for this fight to be over.
Yeah.
And like, it never will be sometimes.
Yeah. I like the point of like, you know exactly what you want to do, you know exactly what you want to be, and then you just can't. Like, just, I feel like the mix of physical symptoms, the mix of emotional symptoms just like shoves you down. And it's like you can't be who you, like, you know who you want to be, but you
Yeah.
just can't. And
Yeah.
it's like,
It reach, but you just can't grab it.
yeah. And I think that's a hard thing for anyone to understand, because I know there's a lot of talk on mindset and like, oh, if you want to do this, you'll do it. Like,
Yeah.
if you have the mind, you truly have the mindset, like,
Mm-hmm.
it'll come out. And it's like, but it doesn't. It's like, you can't.
Yeah. And
I
found myself unfollowing a lot of, like, I don't know, I don't want to say health coaches, because they're great, but there's quite a few people online that I've had to unfollow, not because they're doing wrong or they're doing their job wrong or anything like that, but just because they're living like this crazy great expectation and like all of these amazing things, like, you can work out and you'll feel better and you can do all these things. And I'm like, okay, this is making me be really hard on myself. So I'm just going to choose to disconnect from it, because it makes me feel like crap. Like,
yeah.
it's great for you, but I have to just take a break from some of the things online, even though they're not bad. It's just, it finds me at a bad place, I guess.
Yeah. No, they're hard to see.
Yeah.
It's like when when they make it seem so easy, and you're like, it's not that easy. Like, I can't just do that and be fine and be like happy again. It's just not, it's not realistic for a lot of people, I feel like.
Right.
That have a chronic illness, and that's hard to see. It's hard to see something look so easy, but you can't do it. And it's just not realistic at all. And I feel like, kind of with Lyme and just the emotional distress of it, like depression, anxiety, all of it, I feel like they kind of coincide. And it ends up getting so hard to separate, because it's like, it's coming from this, but how do you separate it, like, by each thing? Because one day you might be super unmotivated, like in bed all day, like don't want to do anything, or not in bed all day, but it's like, which side is causing that? Am I just having a really low depression day, or am I just really not feeling well physically?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really hard to separate. So do you find that kind of difficult?
I mean, with the anxiety, the depression, the symptoms, all of it is hard to tell where it's coming from. Is even with like some of the symptoms that I've had in the past, like, is this a serious thing or is it not? And is this like, am I really like super depressed, or is it just the disease? Like, it mimics everything. It is a smart disease.
It's very smart.
Yes. And it literally just plays mind games with you, and you don't ever know what it's going to do and how it's going to affect you that day, mentally, physically. And it's hard to keep it in order and to know what's coming from where and all of those things. Like, it's really hard, and it's confusing, and it's stressful.
Yeah, it's very stressful, and it's like extremely exhausting, I feel like. Kind of, I guess my next question would be kind of like, how do you feel your mental side affects you with the chronic illness? Like, do you feel like you can separate it or no? Like you said, it's kind of all together and it's hard to separate. So
I would say most days, no. Like I can't tell if this is, just the disease and all of that or not. Like it's really hard for me to tell. I don't
yeah,
think at separating it. At this point, after so long, I feel like every time I have like symptoms, anxiety, depression, whatever symptom, I'm always just like, it's Lyme.
yeah, I
Like
do the
I just,
same thing. Yeah. I mean, Lyme gives you psychiatric conditions, so it's no
yeah,
surprise that we would be super depressed or super anxious or
yeah,
anything from Lyme. But then it's
hmm,
like, how do you heal mentally if it's coming from something, a
right,
disease?
exactly,
It's not a normal cause that you typically see in just depression or just anxiety
mm-mm,
without the chronic illness aspect. So it's hard to, how do you heal that? It's just a
right.
question of, you have to get rid of the cause, which no one seems to want to get rid of the cause of it.
And it's not a
Um,
have to go through treatment, and it takes a long time. So,
yeah,
um, like you said, I don't believe that. I think that we can help our symptoms be better. Sometimes we've talked about it's just out of control and we just can't get over it. But I
yeah,
mean, kind of taking back your power sometimes, and this isn't how today's going to be, or meditating or whatever you can do to try to find a way out of it, even if it's for a minute, every minute of the day or day by day. And just remembering that it is, the disease, whether it be like the rage, like it's the disease talking, the
mm,
disease controlling your thoughts or things like that. And just telling yourself that you aren't crazy, and, and just encourage people to not listen to doctors or other people that tell them that there's nothing wrong with them. Like, it's all in your head. You're crazy. Because like if you or I would have done that, where would we be right now without a diagnosis? And I know
exactly.
people who don't have a diagnosis yet or ever, but to just keep on.
Yeah. Um, I agree with all of that. How do you think the doctors telling you that affected you over the years, and did it play a huge part in maybe taking a while to get the diagnosis? Do you feel like
Yes.
with that? Yeah.
I, like many people in the world, in America, I was in a place where when you get sick, you go to the doctor. You do what they tell you to do, like they're your doctor. So when I took the hit of all these crazy things happening to me, and we trust our doctors, like we trust the medical team that we have, and when they're telling you something that you don't feel, um like you're okay, and you're not, and it really was awful. Like
Yeah.
I think it did take me a little bit longer to get a diagnosis because I was so busy on trying to find in that moment what was going on and how can I fix it. And when I kind of started to do my own research and get a little bit more educated, and the quick fixes that they offer right now, it's just not it. So
Yeah.
I feel like the pressure from them too, of listening to everything that they say, and I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful to what they, not all of them, but we've been through it, so we understand what I'm talking about. But just them completely dismissing everybody, and it took a long time for me to like wake up. Like there is something going on here, and we have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And myself, like I'm gonna figure out what's wrong with me. I know there's something wrong with me. This isn't okay. And so yeah, me getting my diagnosis was forever, but and it definitely mentally, I was struggling
Yeah.
listening to all of the doctors and telling me otherwise.
Yeah. So that kind of starts to like almost feel like it was driving you crazy, and like almost you took that on and were like, maybe they are right, and even though you know they're not, like, or was it more of a like just sending you into a depression of like no one's gonna believe me, or was it maybe a mix of both?
Yeah. So, and I deal with that today too. Like if something happens and like I've had to go to the ER before several times, and I still will get kind of anxious, like they're not going to listen to me, they're not going to believe me or whatever. But yes, and I did go through a time where I was like I said before, like it is me, there's something wrong with me, it's all in my head, maybe they're right, it's whatever. And I went like on a month-long antidepressant medication. Like after a month I was like, I'm not doing this. Like I didn't feel worse, but I felt lifeless almost. Like it wasn't really, I didn't have any emotions, I guess. And I got off of that. But yeah, it did send me into like more depression and more anxiety because nobody believed me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's really hard just to sit there and let people tell you that, and it's like, well, yeah. I know I'm not okay, but you're telling me I am, so it makes no sense, especially when you know it's not just mental, and it's like treating with an antidepressant is going to do nothing because it's coming from
there's
a disease. It's not, you can't treat a disease with an antidepressant, so how would that heal you from something from a disease, which it just makes no sense. But doctors just don't really understand that either, which is really, really frustrating.
It is frustrating.
But so I guess the other thing is how you said that kind of taking back your power during the day, if you can. How did you kind of learn to do that? Because I know that's really, really hard to do. And are you able to do it all the time, or maybe not? It's just
no, I can't do it all the time. Sometimes there's just days where I'm like, it's not gonna happen today. But I do, even if I go through periods of frustration, anger, whatever it is, I do try to like get myself together mentally as best as I can for my kids every day. And for myself, because I don't want to be stuck in that rut all day. And but no, it doesn't happen every day. Like I won't claim to be perfect and all of that, but I do try. Whether it be sticking some earphones in and just listening to music. Like music has been like a big out for me. So listening to music or writing something down, you know, finding little like affirmations or something, anything that I can do to just breathe for a second and try to just deal with things little by little. Because sometimes that's all I can do is just, you know, little things, and we should give ourselves a little bit more credit for even the little things, because Lyme disease is a monster.
Yeah, I agree. Like the little things add up, and sometimes it's all you can do. And some days you can't, and that's fine. Like some days it's just an emotional mess and you're like, this sucks. And nothing is great. Everything just sucks. And that's what it feels like. And
it does. And sometimes you just feel like there's nothing that can please you. Like there's nothing that's going to get out of this feeling today.
Yeah.
So
it's hard because like you lose yourself too. So it's like, even am I like everything is just terrible. I feel like a lot of people feel like a lot of the time, and I mean it's totally fine to feel like that too, but I think like doing that little stuff is good too. But then again, it's like it's hard to, because you feel like that all the time, so it's like, oh my god.
I know. And you just, I mean, it's really this, but we just have to kind of, you know, even though the anger and the rage is coming from like disease, but it's still like a real emotion. So I just try to think of it as just give yourself some grace. This is a real feeling. This is really happening to you. It's not made up, and whatever we can do to just get through the really low, dark places and the times that are just feel like they're never going to end.
Yeah. Those are the hardest to get through too, I feel like. So it's like, it feels like it's never going to end. And do you get those a lot where you're like, this will never end?
Yeah. And that makes me feel horrible because I think about like my kids living life without me. Like, is this really ever going to end?
Yeah.
How am I going to get out of this? Like, am I going to get better? And like, I do find myself like questioning that sometimes. Um, I don't want to, my kids are little still. And sometimes like when I think about, you know,
Yeah.
from the, life like for them, how do I prepare them for life without me? And it's like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to have to feel or think about those things. But I don't know.
I feel like that's a pretty common feeling though. Like
Yeah.
across the board that I've heard from a lot of people, especially with kids. It's just like when you have your kids are the only thing keeping you going, it's like how do you keep going with that? Like how long does it last? It's just I feel like it's crazy.
It is, and it's hard and it's really challenging, but hoping for the best. And when I hear people like talk about like the Lyme warrior, like you guys are warriors, like I really feel that. Like we fight every day. Like we open our eyes and go to war every day.
Yeah. You wake up and it's all just like explodes. It's like, oh great. Good morning. Yeah. It's really difficult. And it's a really hard thing to go through. And it's a mess, I feel like. It feels like a mess. But it sounds like kids though are like great motivators, at least from what I've heard from you today. And then from people I've talked to who have kids too. It's just like they're a huge motivator.
Yeah, they are. Because some days if I didn't have my kids, I probably would stay in bed all day. And nobody should be depressed in bed all day because then it's just worse.
Yeah. But nothing helps by staying in bed all day alone with your thoughts. So it's like.
So I just get up and take care of them. And, it's challenging too, because sometimes I do need to take care of myself, but so.
Yeah. I imagine that's like a really hard thing too, or at least I think from what I've heard from some people, it's like, of course, the kids are huge motivators and you love them with everything, but it's like, it gets exhausting. And I feel like that's also an emotional distress too at some points.
The balance of they're first and I have to, do all these things with them and take care of them and love them. But then like they're still just, and any other mom, like, without a chronic illness or something or mental illness, like they probably still struggle with like the same things that I struggle with. And then, throwing Lyme disease in there, it's like the balance of trying to take care of me too and my mental health has been, a big thing, and trying to balance all of that together.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it seems like a huge, like really hard thing to try to deal with and balance. And I know a lot of people are still trying to balance it too. Like, I feel like you're never going to find that one thing that's going to work. It's just a constant balance.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure it out every day. Day.
Yeah. I don't know. I applaud the Lyme moms in this community because I'm like, it blows my mind that you guys have to care for other little lives. And then it's like, that takes a whole nother level of strength. So I really do applaud you guys because that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just don't know how you guys do it at all.
I don't know either sometimes, but
yeah. But there's so many of you guys, like so many Lyme moms. And I really hope they see this because I know I have a lot of Lyme moms that follow me for sure. And I really hope they see this too because I think it could really help them a lot. But
we all are just dealing with the same things, and any way that we could like support each other, help each other. Yeah,
is anything at all is great.
Yeah.
But I really like this conversation. I think it's a lot of eye-opening things and a lot of things people can learn and relate to and kind of realize like, oh, I'm not crazy for this. But I mean, with that, is there anything else you'd like to add at all or talk about?
I think that's it. I mean, unless you have any more questions for me.
I feel like we covered a lot. I mean, I'm bad at coming up with questions. I like the flow. And then the flow kind of is like, I'm like, I feel like I hit a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So I think that was really, really good. And thank you so much for coming on here. And I will stop this recording. So you can say bye to everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.